Hey, Mega Moms. Jessica Hensley here with Real Estate Mega Moms, where we help moms create a life and a business that they love. And I am joined by my partner, Stephanie Stockberger, today. And we have such a fun episode, maybe a little bit. We get to take out some of our aggression on our podcast listeners today. We're going to talk about how you can get rid of a problem client. Oh my goodness. So I know that most people right now with the whole NAR settlement statement are like scrambling, thinking about how low can I go? And I just want to get as many clients as I can get. And maybe that's not your mindset right now, but we know we've all been there. We've had these horrible clients that just drain the energy from us. And we're here to tell you, you don't have to put up with that. You don't have to work with the people that you don't enjoy working with. Yes, sometimes you're going to have maybe more difficult clients than others, but maybe that's the first question we ask Stephanie is like, when's enough enough? How do you know when you should let them go?
Wow, that's a really good question. I think that you mentioned at the beginning, it's like we're going to take out, what is it? Take out some of our like anger,
Aggression.
aggression. um, I think we've all been there, unless you just started. I remember my very first kind of fire, and I was rocking and rolling, had been in the industry for probably just over a year. And, at the beginning, you do really need to think about taking quite a bit. I mean, like, you really want to take all the clients that you possibly could get. But it was my first like big break, and it was a higher end client. And she called me up and she's just like, hey, this is my address and it's going to be a really big sale for you, Stephanie. And right away, I'm like, oh, yeah, I know it is. I mean, yeah, I'm excited. I'm ready to go. And I went to her house. She walked me around and I could tell she was really full of herself. And I'm like, hey, I'm really proud of you. I can definitely feed you your importance. I mean, I'm going to tell you what you need to hear. This is a beautiful home. It absolutely is. But I could tell at the end of the conversation, she was going to treat me not very nice and kind of like a puppy or an animal, and not even a very nice way to treat an animal. And she reminded me how much the commission was going to be, and several times. And I thought about that. And I thought about the headspace it was going to take and what it was going to do to me mentally. And I decided to, even before I was hired, I decided to just let her know that it was not going to be a good fit. And she could not understand why I was going to do that. But I had I'm going to fire you as a client before it even started. She was really surprised. And honestly, I was really surprised I did it myself, because that was a lot of money. I mean, it still is. I mean, I look back
So
and just like, wow. That was
did
a
you
lot of money.
actually fire her or did you end up working with her?
Well, because I went through most of the process almost to the very end. So kind of, to me, at that point, we were working together, but it just
Yeah.
came down to the final, very, very end where we were signing and working together that I did. I let her go.
And you
And
didn't get paid?
no, no.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
hard.
nope. And it was a lesson for me. It really was a lesson for me, but I was really proud of myself that I let that happen. And there's
Yeah.
been a lot of stories since then, but most of them had to do with people treating me really badly.
Mhm.
And typically I had been the kind of personality that would take it for quite a while. And then I'm just like, you know what? This is not working. And
Yeah.
I think some of the stories that we'll have today too were the buyer's expectations were too much, and the seller's expectations were too much. And we had to have those conversations too. But typically where I came down to it were, just the way they treated me.
Yeah.
And then it got to the point where it's just like, you know what? This is not going to work.
I think we need to maybe retitle this podcast as red flags, right? What
Yeah.
are the red flags? Red flags for your clients.
Yep.
You've probably seen the podcast of like red flags for your agents, or not podcasts, but reels and different posts about that, which is entirely true too. Agents have their own set of problems, but how do you know when you should let somebody go? And I would say a red flag that a client would present to you is that they're not willing to take your advice or value your advice. I have had somebody say, like, "I understand what you're saying. I appreciate what you're saying. I value what you're saying. However, this is what I wanna do." And that to me is different than, somebody's like, "Well, you don't know what you're doing. I know what I'm talking about." Like, they're not willing to even listen to what you have to say. And I think as a new agent, you guys probably go through that, a lot. I know I did. I mean, I was 18 when I got licensed, so I was young, I didn't know a lot, and so I had to really fight and, um, fake it till I make it kind of thing for me, to show people my value and my knowledge, but I took a lot. I was just like, "Whatever you want." Took a lot of overpriced listings, took a lot of unrealistic buyers, and, I I won't make that mistake again because I know what my sanity is worth. So, first red flag, they don't value your opinion. Do you agree with that?
Oh, amen. That's the big one.
And that's
Red
what they're
flag.
hiring you for.
I love that, Jess. Red flag. Listen to your gut immediately.
Well, what other red flags can you think of for both buyer and seller that we should be looking out for?
Well, I think that, we were in a meeting this afternoon, a Zoom meeting. We were talking about their expectations. I mean, if their expectations are here and we know realistically it should be down here, why are we trying to put it together? Why are we working so hard to put it together? If we're so far apart and it's never going to come together, why are we forcing it? Why are we
Yeah.
giving all of our time and energy?
And sometimes it's a mentality for them, it's for the buyer or seller, like, they just have to get a deal. There are those people out there, they're not gonna be happy unless it's half the market value. There's no reasoning. But part of our job is to attempt to reason with people, and I think the next red flag is that they're not willing to listen to the reasoning. Your logical expectation or your explanation of why you're arriving at that CMA price, why that offer that they're making makes sense,
Yep.
right?
And I think that, with all of this stuff coming out right now with the commissions and that kind of thing, I want us all to be really careful that we're not just like, just spinning wheels. We all need to feed our families and we're all going to have to work extra hard, but we all need to know our worth as well. And I think that if the expectations are here and realistically it's here, and we do our job and do our diligence and prove our worth and make sure that we do our jobs to tell them that, hey, buyer and seller, this is where it realistically is, and we're still here. Don't go just waste your time and energy and all your effort for days and days and days and put miles on and all those things and take away your time from people that really do value us and take away time and energy away from your family just to make, don't work for nothing. I think that's really
Yes.
important because I do see that, like, people in our community, a lot of agents in our community that are really putting in time and effort to things that will never close, and it's sad. It is sad, and I see some of that probably going to happen here, and I want to make
Mhm.
sure that everyone is realistic with that. And even myself, I'm saying this out loud to all of us.
Mhm.
Let's make sure that, give them all the information that you need to give them to make sure that they understand what is realistic, and make sure there's no gray area. You are worth this, and make sure that you give them the information so they know what you're worth.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, and what I'd like to do is we're gonna go through the red flags, and then at the end of this, we're gonna talk about some different ways you can end that relationship in a respectful manner that's not going to burn the bridge. Sometimes you do wanna burn that bridge, like, sometimes you wanna set that bridge on fire,
yes.
but but most of the time, it's better, more for professional to end it where the person kinda self-selected and realized, "Okay, we're not a good fit." So we're gonna go through some strategies on that too. But so far we have for red flags, they don't value your opinion. They don't have the realistic expectations. Another red flag I can think of stuff is they are, oh my goodness, I just went blank. Red flag, expectation. They don't value your opinion. Oh, they're not willing to work your way. Sorry, I had a, like, total brain freeze there. So when I say that, I let my buyers and sellers know during our consultation, this is how I work, right? I explain I work as a team. And I know not everyone has a micro team out there. So just insert whatever your process is. And by the way, you should have a process, okay? Don't let somebody else dictate your schedule. Don't let them dictate your life. You have a family. We're working to be with our family, not to be working 24/7. It's such a pet peeve of mine whenever people say and almost brag, "I'm available 24/7. You can reach me anytime." I'm
I
like,
saw your
"Okay."
post on that. I saw your post on
Ugh.
that. I know that it's so hard unless I mean, do you really wanna be available 24/7? Come on, no. I mean,
Nobody does. Yeah.
ah,
And that's gonna burn you out. I mean, that tells me you're a new agent, you haven't been in the business long enough, or you have 0 personal you don't have respect for your family. Um, and I think probably most people that make that claim have every good intention and they feel like this is setting me up to have this great value add. You can reach me at any time. But when I hear somebody say that, lenders, insurance agent, any professional CPAs, I've never heard a CPA say that, but I mean, you're not going to hear a CPA or an attorney or anybody say I'm available 24/7. But the professions that you hear say that, I think, well, I'm not going to send you business because unless you have a support system around you, you're not going to be able to sustain that very long, you know? So, anyway, that's kind of a tangent, but they're not willing to work my way. So I tell them, you can reach me from 7 to 7. I'm available. Send me a text, send me an email, send me call me, and I'll return your phone call between 7 and 7, right? And I'm available on Saturdays, but I don't work on Sundays. I don't write offers on Sundays. I don't check my phone on Sundays. Like I am dead to the world on Sundays, 9 times out of 10. I try not to make exceptions. But then you have somebody that continually is messaging you at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock. And or they're continually, I just want to see you on Sunday. That's the only day I can do it. So you let them know up front, this is your boundary. This is how I work. Is that an issue? And they consent. No, that's not an issue. But then they try to breach it. If you allow them to breach the boundary, you're the problem, not them.
right. I see that I'm frozen here. I don't know if you can still hear me, Jess.
I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. I have a great picture out there that is just frozen. No, but I think that's important. And yeah, I think the 24/7 thing is, if you have a system set up where there is someone, watching the phone or available 20, if you're available 8 hours and the next person takes a shift, then by all means. But I agree. I think that you need to be realistic and let everyone know that what your schedule is and what your system is.
The next red flag that comes to mind is um, I wanna say mental health, but, I know people suffer with different things. That doesn't mean it's an automatic red flag, but if you have this, like, deep-seated bitterness and, like, you feel like, "I have to get 40% off of any property or else I'm getting screwed," or, maybe you have a husband and wife that are fighting, right? And it's like they're on the verge of getting divorced. And so they're constantly bickering in front of you while you're showing houses, or, something like that, where there's some kind of drama dynamic. I have seen so many of our agents that are, you know, they have such kind hearts. They're so giving. I've even seen one, this lady was a widow. My agent, she felt like this person didn't have anyone. So she was being verbally abused by this lady. She was going above and beyond. I mean, to the point, like, I think she was even like picking up mail and doing, like all kinds of crazy stuff. This person was a hoarder. I think there was a lot of issues going on. So she just had this bleeding heart for the client trying to do a good job for her, but the person was unwell, and that's not your job. Your job is to sell a house. And the other thing is you're not a trained therapist or a psychologist. Like that's outside of your scope of expertise. So we need to stay in our lane, unless you do have that background, and if you do, by all means, right? So I think we need to think about their mental state too. If we can tell that they're unwell, that there's something more going on, it's not going to be a good fit, in my opinion, for me anyway.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And there's definitely a lot going on in the world. So that's a really good point. And if you need to refer them on to someone or, give them information that they could get help, I mean, for you to feel like you're getting it off your plate, I think that's a really good idea.
Some other red flags that's maybe not really a red flag to most, but going back to boundaries, like I have certain boundaries of price point, certain boundaries of minimum commission because we do have a lot of lower price properties. So I know I mean, honestly, I just had to turn away one of my good friends, my sweet sweet friend. She's actually my banker. She's wanting to buy investment properties, and the co-broke on it was $500. And I'm like, and it wasn't even in my town. I mean, I would have had to drive 40 minutes away. And I said, listen, I love you, but I think you need to just go to the listing agent because unless you're gonna pay me the difference, which in the buyer agency that is definitely a possibility, but in this case, it was a flip. She's very tight budget. I just knew in her case, plus she's knowledgeable, she's a banker, she knows how to take care of herself, she knows what's what. So
Right.
I just told her, "Go to the listing agent." So if it's outside of my boundary, like, part of me wanted to just do it, but by the time I pay my TC and my team and my split with my brokerage, like, I would have literally made maybe 50 bucks.
Yep.
You
Yep.
know, it's not worth it, and so, I mean, another good point on this, kinda to do with commission, and I won't say the dollar or the percentage amount, but talked to one of my coaching clients this last week, and we did her income model for her, micro team, and we were looking at how many transactions she wants to do and all the positions, that will help her reach that. Well, her current business model is working with this corporate investor, and it's at a very reduced rate. And she's like, I had no idea that my system and my model was so broken until I put my numbers in here because it had her netting like $20,000 after taking care of just normal expenses. And that was with 40 or 50 closings. Like that was not with a little amount of closing. And I'm just like, girl, you can't work for free,
Mhm.
And so if they're not willing, if it's outside of your boundary that, commission wise, um, it could even be price point, it could be location. I won't work with outside of 1 hour from me. I'm not willing to drive or even list the property if it's farther than an hour away from me. I don't know that market well enough. So I mean, you all have to set your own boundaries, whatever you're comfortable with.
Yeah, and honestly, the ones the agent or the sellers and buyers that you have to cut ties with after you're already working with them, the ones that you have to fire, getting rid of them is so liberating. It feels so good. Those are the ones that it gets bad enough to let go. It's like, oh my word, goodbye. And you're able to open up your mind to the good clients. You're able to open your heart to the good clients. So and I totally agree with the ones that are like out of our scope, Jess. I mean, we'll refer those all day long. I don't want to drive an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours to help a client in an area that I don't know. So I will definitely, refer those on as well.
So hopefully this is giving you all some courage to know when to see those red flags and to cut it off as quickly as you notice the red flags. Don't let it go on and on. People will go as far as you allow them to go. And again, if they cross your boundary, that's on you, not them, because you didn't enforce that boundary. So now let's come to the uncomfortable part of how do you part ways? How do you tactfully tell someone, I don't want to work with you? Right? So we talked about this on our EXP group coaching call today with mine and Stephanie's downline with EXP. And some ways that we talked about was to just politely let a client know, hey, well, let me set it up for you. I'll set up what happened exactly. One of our agents has been showing properties for a while now. She'll drive an hour to show the property. So she's in the car at least 2 hours and then plus the showing time, and it's a good budget. They're approved, I think, up to like 400,000 or something like that. And she's showing them within the budget. She checked all the boxes. I think they even signed a buyer's agency with her. So checked all the boxes. But then they look at the property, and every time one of them, and I think specifically the husband, is like, nope, it's not worth it. I wouldn't even offer, 30,000 within that price, and she's showing them the property's worth it. This, fits your criteria. This is everything you're looking for. And it's like time after time after time. And she's like, how do I tactfully tell them I can't afford to drive 2 hours to show you properties if you're just like your expectations are just unrealistic? So my solution was for her to do a group message and, attempt to first reach them in person. But if that was not possible, because it seems like they're not, they just communicate through text mostly and not willing to come in, that she could politely say, hey, I've been showing you houses for a while now. It looks like I'm not able to find a property that's exactly what you're looking for. I would like to refer you to another agent. Now, that's one way, referring to another agent. Another way she could approach it is, before we look at properties, I would love to send you a market analysis of the property so you know that it's worth what they're asking. And if you like it, I need you to confirm that you would be willing to offer the market analysis that I've sent you, or asking price, before we look at it, so that I know that we're looking at something that you would seriously consider. Another way you could approach it is, "Hey, I'm happy to keep showing you houses. Unfortunately, if you're looking at homes that are, that are outside of what you're willing to offer and they're asking more than you would be willing to pay, I have to at least have my time and gas compensated. So I'd ask that you, reimburse me for my expenses, and that's gonna be, X amount per showing." So those are 3 different ways that you could do it that I thought of on our call, and I think she has some good tools. Stephanie, what would you say? How would you get rid of a problem client?
Yeah. I mean, I really like those 3 options, and I think that if she even did a Zoom call with that, put it on a form or a document of some kind, and then just go over it with them in person on, like, and go over the form, like, on a Zoom call. And especially if the couple are not on the same, like, wavelength, putting them on the same call together, because if it's him that is kind of nixing everything, and she might not know that, the reasoning, they might not be communicating well. So I think, putting them all in the same call together. And I think if they're not going to meet in the office with her, I think if they did it face to face with them on Zoom and they went over the document, I really feel like it just needs to be nipped in the bud. I think they need to have those options, like, again, on Zoom. I love that. And I think they need to pick one of them. So, and I love the idea if they kind of flip it around and, put it as a cost to them to have her show houses. I think that it will be real quick decided. I think
Yeah,
that,
they won't. Yeah, more than likely. I think if we did start charging by the
yep,
showing, like,
yep,
that would cut down on a lot of showings, but and I've heard, I heard some people with the whole NARS settlement changes and all of that, making that a possibility, but of course, we're not in your state, we're not in your brokerage, we're not telling you, what to charge or how to charge it, so definitely talk to your brokerage, make sure it's state compliant and all of that, but yeah, I think that just having that little bit of education, and that's why the buyer consultation is so important, and
yeah,
in some ways, I'm happy about the settlement. I just wish, there was a little bit more flexibility around, you know, knowing that the seller was willing to cover, or, basically allow it to be how it was, where the commission was just came off the top of the price,
yeah,
and we can all argue all day long of who pays for what on that because the buyer's bringing the money.
right. Yep.
Anyway,
That's what,
so yeah. But
because
anyway,
yeah.
yeah. Regardless, having that upfront conversation and the
Mhm.
consultation is key. It is key. And the more upfront clarity you can provide to your buyer or seller, the more heartache you're going to avoid in the long run. And that's something I had to learn. Um, Let me give you a little bit of a strategy too on both sides. So if a seller is unrealistic about their price point and you have the comps to prove the data, and they're like, had this the other day. I came up with a certain number, and I think I had a range between 180 and 250. And my client was like, the wife was like, nope, I want 270. There's no way I'm not taking anything less than 270. And I said, okay, well, let me show you the comparables and we can discuss together how that compares to your property. So we brought up each property one by one and I showed her the pictures, each property. And I said, is this inferior or superior to your home? And I made her tell me. Right. And so we went through, and then pretty soon she saw a trend and she's like, oh, yeah, I see that one sold for that. And mine doesn't have as many square feet and mine isn't as updated as that one. And so I literally let her change her own mind just by showing her the data. And that's where I'm saying we have to bridge that gap. You have to know how to actually have those conversations. People are going to be set in their ways, but how skilled are you at conveying the truth?
Right. Yeah. As agents, we're going to have to get skilled on both sides.
Mhm.
Do your homework for sure.
And then, the other scenario I had in the last week is I had a couple like this, but had a buyer who wanted to make an unrealistic offer to a seller, and I said, "Okay, well, you're asking 11,000 them to come down 11,000 plus pay your closing costs, plus pay for repairs, plus pay for a home warranty." So, what I did was I showed her the net sheet for the seller so she could see all of their closing costs, their true net from the asking price, and showed her how much they were really having to come down. And I think that really set the stage for her to understand, wow, I really shouldn't lowball. Like if I was in their shoes, I wouldn't take this offer either. And we've actually submitted the offer and they've already countered us. And I think she's open to that counter because of, that little extra work that we did just to open her eyes to both sides. People can't see the forest for the trees, right? They can only see their side of it. And so I think it's our job, whichever side you're on, to give them an example and give them some empathy, give them some insight into what the other side's going for. In fact, I feel like that's the primary thing that we're paid for, and the biggest value we bring to the table as realtors is to be the neutral third party that's bringing reason to an emotional situation.
That's a great way to look at it because all they're seeing really is the top number. Like in that situation, all they're seeing is what they sell it for. They're not thinking of all of the costs that go into it. So
Mhm.
that's a great way. Um,
Yeah.
yep, to give insight.
I love how you're frozen,
I
Steph.
know. I know.
You're
I'm
so
looking at that as
perfect.
like, that's wonderful. I'm thinking.
Love it. All right. Well, Mega Moms, this is such a good episode, and I hope that you got some value, gave you some ideas on when to set your boundaries, what to say, how to let them go, give you a few strategies on that. As always, please like and subscribe to our podcast, our YouTube channel, go to our pages, all the places to follow along to learn more about how to build your business. And if you're interested in building a business with us, we do have some great coaching programs. We even have one that has a guarantee that you'll make six figures in a year of working with us, working while the kids are in school. So there's a lot of good stuff over here, and we love to work with each and every one of you. And we'll see you guys next week.
Hi, ladies.
Bye.